What if the deal that launches your storage business isn't even in your buy box? In other words, what if the first deal you ever landed wasn't even on your radar? Well, one of my students asked that exact question inside of our Storage Wins private community, and her question might completely change how you look at deals forever. Because look, sometimes the fastest way to grow isn't finding the perfect deal. It's asking the right question to the right people. And on that note, I don't think the perfect deal exists. So if you are sitting on the sidelines waiting for the perfect deal, chances are you're never going to find it because it doesn't exist. The right deal is the one in which you are constantly taking massive imperfect action, asking the right questions, connecting with the right people, building relationships, and moving forward in spite of not always having all the answers. Because let me just burst your bubble. I don't think I have ever purchased a storage deal before, and I have others within our Storage Wins community who have bought their first deal that never felt 1,000% confident and had every single answer. So if you're expecting all the stars to align in order to buy your first deal, you're probably not going to buy your first deal. Okay, so let's just go ahead and put that off to the side and cover that. Now, what is going on, my friends? My name is Alex Pardo. I am the host of the Storage Wins podcast, and I also run a community called Storage Wins that teaches people how to buy their very first storage facility within 6 months. And inside of our coaching community, one of our members asked an incredible question. She said, I've been coming across a lot of facilities that are less than 20,000 net rentable square feet based on Google Maps, but they're clearly mom and pop operators, which, by the way, those are the types of facilities we look at, is mom and pop storage facilities in smaller markets, tertiary markets, in some cases, secondary markets. And if the deal really, really makes sense, maybe even in rural markets. But back to her question, she said, they're clearly mom and pop operators in growing markets with good, strong household income. Are they still worth pursuing? And should I stick to my buy box as a rookie? Well, I thought I'd highlight and feature that question because I thought it was a really good one. You know, sometimes I think the whole buy box thing gets a bad rap. There's even some people out there that think that you shouldn't have a buy box because you limit yourself. Well, I would argue the opposite. I think, to me, having a clearly defined buy box, not only does it give you confidence, it gives confidence to brokers, and it gives confidence to wholesalers and others you communicate with, because it shows that you know exactly what you want. Now, I will agree that only putting blinders onto your buy box, and you might miss out on some opportunity, especially if you're looking to wholesale your first storage facility, in which a buy box might not matter as much because you're looking to contract the deal at the right price or terms, and then turn that around, find the buyer to step into your shoes for the wholesale spread. Now, the reason, back to my client's question, the reason I love it is because it shows that she's not just chasing deals. Okay, she's thinking strategically, and she's asking, how do I focus my time and effort the right way? And that's the kind of thinking that creates momentum, and creates momentum fast. By the way, she just recently joined our community. She's already been having meaningful conversations with storage owners. She's already sent some offers, and she is well on her way, already knocking on the door of her first deal. Now, what happened next was awesome. So not only did I respond and give her some very specific, thoughtful, insightful things to consider, and just my perspective from my experience, but we had several others in our community who jumped in with their own experiences. So today, what I'd like to do is unpack that. I'm just going to cover part of the thread because it was a pretty long thread of people chiming in and sharing their insight and asking questions, and people just coming alongside each other to help and support. And that's really what our community is about. But I just want to show how one great question can spark a lot of inspiration, and in some cases a masterclass in deal making. And it gives you the insight and perspective of things that you might not have considered. And I think that is one of the benefits and the beauty of being in the right community, of being in the right room, whether it's virtual or in person, is that you're going to get challenged, and people are going to give you a perspective you hadn't considered. They're going to plant the seed and have you think about something from a different angle. So what I shared with my coaching client is that, first, yes, that smaller facilities can absolutely be worth pursuing. Before I continue, Let me give you some context that my buy box blueprint, when I first came into storage, is I was only looking for storage facilities between 20,000 and 50,000 net rentable square feet, 20,000 to 50,000 net rentable square feet, because it was my belief that it was just as much time, energy, and effort to work on a small deal as it was to work on a big one. So now that I've given you that perspective, I still believe and feel that it absolutely makes sense to contact mom and pop owners of smaller facilities, and they can be worth pursuing. In fact, I have quite a few friends who have done very, very well on small 8, 9, 10, 12,000 net rentable square foot facilities. Okay. So even if it doesn't check every single box in your buy box, they can be an incredible training ground, if nothing else. So every single meaningful conversation you have with a storage owner, I want you to treat it as if it was the quote unquote perfect deal, whatever that looks like for you, or whether it was a deal that you weren't interested in, because you never know what's on the other side of that door, right? So you always want to approach every conversation as if it matters, because it does matter. That is a human being on the other side of the call, and they are a storage owner. And who knows if they have a portfolio or if they know of somebody. And so golden rule of life, always treat people the way that you want to be treated, especially if you don't think you can get anything from them. And if you're going into conversations thinking that you're just going to take and extract, that is a recipe for failure and disaster, and it's not sustainable. So every single conversation you have, every seller you connect with, those are repetitions, what I call the reps, that you are building your confidence and your skill, and you're going to get more comfortable having conversations. I remember this coaching client, when she came into our community, one of her fears was picking up the phone and calling. And now, while that fear might still be there, it's dissipating, and it's less. Because why? She's taking that massive imperfect action. She's going out there and she's connecting and she's having conversations, and she's gaining traction and momentum, which is feeding her confidence, allowing her and inspiring her to take the next step and the next step and the next step until you ultimately succeed. So have the mindset that you are not just hunting for a facility, that you're becoming an investor in the process, an investor that asks the right questions. And if the deal is too small for you long term, and if it just doesn't fit your goals and your vision, then you can still monetize it. Okay. And that, i.e., a wholesale. If you can get it at the right price or terms, then you can potentially find the buyer that it does fit their vision and it does fit their goals. And that's what I call an instant payday and a real world lesson rolled into one. So as a rookie, yes, you do want to stick to your buy box for properties that you actually want to own and operate. And you need to ask yourself if you're in this for cash flow, for equity, and it's likely both, but which one is the priority? And when you find something outside of your buy box that's still a solid deal, evaluate it, because it could be the right opportunity for somebody else. And that could be a wholesale, that could be a partnership. It could even be a hybrid where you wholesale the facility and still retain some ownership in the deal. In fact, my very first storage deal was structured that same way. And one more thing, you want to balance your outreach. And I don't really like the word balance. I'm not a huge fan of that word, but about 80% of your effort, I believe, in my opinion, just based on my experience, should probably be direct to owner. That's where a lot of the hidden deals live. The other 20% is in building genuine relationships with the right brokers. They are the gatekeepers. They spend a lot of time and energy cold calling and connecting with these mom and pop storage owner operators. They understand the markets. They understand what's a deal and what's not a deal. But when you reach out, don't sound like every rookie who says, "Hey, what do you have?" Or asking a very basic question that's already on the OM, the offering memorandum. But instead, lead with credibility. Share your buy box. If you're part of the Storage Wins community, or if you're part of a community, let them know, because that's important. They value that because it shows that you're taking this business serious. Enough so that you made an investment in yourself of not just money, but of time and energy. Let them know that what you're looking for. In my case, it was 20,000 net rentable square feet to 50,000 net rentable square feet. And you're looking for tertiary markets with a strong medium household income where the population is increasing. Now, understand that these brokers have heard this before. Okay, you are not sharing with them something they haven't heard before. So they probably get a lot of these calls. This is where your personality and how you connect with a person can start to separate you from others. And one of the ways you can just, and I shared this with my coaching client, is seek to contribute, seek to add value, seek to give. Okay. Because the most important capital that you can raise is relationship capital. It's not money. And let brokers know what you're working with. Let them know that you have access to capital if you do, or if you have strong capital partners that can move quickly. If you tell them you're going to get back to them that day or the next day, get back to them that day or the next day. And I had some other coaching clients jump in and share their perspective. And one said, look, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but it depends on your goals. Because if it's cash flow, if it's equity or both, a buy box is important, but it can evolve. And she's dead on. A buy box is not a tattoo. Like, you don't just like write it out and that's it. It's set in stone. It's going to evolve as you grow, as you mature in this business, as your goals change, your buy box is going to evolve and change. So you need to underwrite more deals in order to help you understand what you actually want. And I love that. I thought that was really, really good advice. As you get sharper and you understand what's a deal and what's not a deal, your buy box can get modified, and be okay with that. Okay. Because too many new investors treat their buy box like it's the 10 commandments. And it is, like I said, carved in stone. But really think of your buy box as clay. And as you grow, your buy box is going to evolve and grow and change. And so every deal you analyze is going to give you more data. And it's going to share with you what kind of markets excite you. It's going to share with you what kind of deals you don't want, what kind of markets you don't want to be in, what headaches you may want to avoid, what numbers feel safe. Look, we just had, within the last, I think, month and a half, I had a new coaching client come into our community, and he's an experienced roofer. In fact, he specializes in building roofs for storage facilities, and he works with public storage and extra space. And so for him, ground up development and construction, it's like easy peasy. Like, he'll take it all day long. And then I have others that don't want any complicated CapEx projects. They're looking for like low-hanging fruit. And so you got to know what drives you, what moves you, what's your skill set, and what resonates. And that is why it's important for everybody to have a buy box. So let your buy box serve you, not control you. And then lastly, I had another community member mention that, he started with a very, very tight buy box, but he realized that he didn't have to land his dream facility, what he called, right away. And he realized that he was in a season of life where, hey, it could make sense to wholesale some of these deals and make some money. And so it's such a healthy mindset to have awareness about where you're at in life and in business and what would best serve you now, because sometimes it's a building block or a springboard to the next thing, to the next perfect deal. And so don't wait for the pitch to be perfect, because oftentimes in baseball, those are the hitters that strike out when they're waiting for, like, when they're sitting fastball and all of a sudden the pitcher throws them a curveball, they got like wobbly legs, they're caught off balance. Okay. So, I want you to turn these questions, the experience that was shared, and I want you to now build on this moving forward. Okay, what can you do with this information? Do you have a buy box? Because if not, I would absolutely encourage you to start there. If you do have a buy box, are you being like way too focused on it and you need to allow for a little bit of fluidity? Or is it the opposite? You have a buy box, but you think everything is an opportunity because you're not honoring your buy box. So I think the first lesson is the buy box is a filter. It's not a fence. Use it to focus, but not to limit yourself. A buy box should help you say no faster. As an example, I was not interested in ground up development when I got started in storage. In fact, I'm still not interested in ground up development. So when I saw properties on LoopNet and Crexy, or when I saw a wholesaler send me land with like a beautiful like rendering of a storage facility, I'm like, next. I'm not going to waste my time and energy on that. Okay. And if the deal fits your buy box, awesome, pursue it. If it's a good deal outside your buy box, decide whether you're willing to bend a little bit on your buy box, or does it make sense to pursue it and possibly wholesale it? Especially if you're in a community like Storage Wins, where you have other people winning and pursuing storage, because that is one of the things that we do inside of Storage Wins, is that everybody has clarity about each other's buy box and what's a deal to them, what markets they're looking at. And so it opens the door for a lot of collaboration, a lot of connections to be made to make 1 + 1 = 11. Okay, lesson number 2 is early on, it's about the reps, not necessarily just the returns. Okay, every call is going to build your confidence, and it's pattern recognition. And you're going to learn how sellers think. You're going to see how brokers talk and what the numbers actually mean to them and what's a deal to them and how do they look at a deal. And that experience compounds with every single phone call. Okay, and eventually your yeses are going to start to get bigger. Your confidence grows. And so I think that's really, really important that you understand that. And lesson 3, it's ask better questions and get in the right rooms, get in better rooms. My coaching client's question didn't just help her, but it sparked conversation for others in the community. It sparked wisdom and insight. That is the power of being in the right rooms, is when you surround yourself with people who are doing the work, you're going to get real world battle tested insight, not just theory. And it just takes one thing. One piece of content, one insight, one push, one accountability phone call, one offer you make, one deal. The one thing mindset and approach can completely change everything for you. So when you don't know what to do next, that's what I want you to think about, is that you're just one thing away from a completely different life and business. Okay. And sometimes it's the question that you might be afraid to ask is the one that opens up the next door. So look, with that being said, if you are listening right now, and clearly you are, and you're in that early stage and you're maybe calling owners and doubting yourself, wondering if a deal is too small, maybe wondering if a deal is too big, here's my advice for you. Don't overthink it. Just take massive imperfect action. Okay, surround yourself with the right people. The reps are going to teach you more than the perfect plan ever will. Because the perfect plan, in my opinion, doesn't exist. You need a plan, and you need a solid plan, but suspend the belief that it has to be perfect, because rarely in life are things perfect. And remember one thing, that the smartest storage investors aren't the ones that have all the answers. They're the ones that keep showing up. They're the ones that keep asking better questions to the right people and are in the right communities. And I happen to believe that Storage Wins is the best one right now. So here's my question for you. What's your buy box right now? Okay. Share it with me. Go inside the Storage Wins Facebook group and share it there. Connect with others. And if you want to be in the right room where questions like this get answered every single day, then I want to encourage you to head over to storagewins.com, schedule a very short discovery call, and let's discuss. And I'll ask you some questions, and you can learn how you can buy your first facility, create cash flow, build wealth, and just experience more freedom. And so with that being said, thank you for listening. I will catch you on the next one.